Now watch how quickly I set up this palette. Let's do it in fast motion. I start with a regular graphite pencil on the watercolor paper of my sketchbook. This is a Koval sketchbook. I'm trying to tell myself to slow down and take it easy with the drawing and not rush the pencil stage, because sometimes I'm so eager to get into paint that I jump ahead, try to save it with a brush. The nice thing about the pencil stage is that you can take your time, erase it, change it. Then you have confidence when you go to the painting stage. At least that's what I'm hoping. This is also a finite enough subject that I can really make sure I've got all the leaves accounted for. It's really fairly simple. I mean, there's probably, about 30 leaves? 31 leaves that I can account for. I want to make each one a distinct portrait of the light and shade on that leaf. I'm intrigued by the way the light interacts with the leaves, the way the pale light gray is on the top surface of the leaves, and the transmitted light through the leaf is a bright yellow green. How are you doing over there, Jeanette?
Confused. I am confused.
Me too.
Yes. There's too much. Abundanza.
That's what always happens. What seems simple ends up being incredibly complicated, and there's so much more to bite off than I had thought. Pick something easy, he said.
You said I'm going to do one thing. One hosta plant.
Yeah, one thing. Simple, right?
And I said I was going to do one tree. What happened?
Well, I'm ready to start in with watercolor and gouache. I got that yellow-green, and I got browns, yellow ochre, and also titanium white gouache, which will turn all those watercolors into gouache. Now, laid out on this palette, which is made of a metal pencil box lid, quinacridone red, burnt sienna, raw umber, yellow ochre, titanium white, cad yellow light, permanent green pale, viridian, cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, and dioxazine violet. That should cover it. Before I left home, I primed this page with a color gradation that has yellow-green in the center and then darker, cooler colors around it. Blues, deep reds, and grays. The idea with doing this was to give myself a starting point of color and a sense of a spotlight focusing attention on one green plant in the center of the picture. Now, when I left home, I didn't know that I'd be painting this particular hosta plant or a hosta plant at all, but having that green gives me something to work against. Now I'll have to raise the value of the right side of that leaf to match to the leaf I'm looking at, but basically what I'm seeing is a green that's neutral on the top surface of the leaf and yellow-green, very intense, wherever you see the underside of the leaf with the light shining through. That's transmitted light, where the light shines through and intensifies into that yellow-green. So I'm using a grayer green on the top surface. In addition to the shape and color of the overall plant and the shape and color of each individual leaf, you've also got the texture within each leaf. Basically, you've got those veins. The veins of the leaf depart from the petiole, the base of the leaf, and head outward in parallel pairs, and then come back together again at the tip. And then each vein from the petiole to the tip has a bumpy quality that I want to try to capture. But as you can see, it'd be easy to get lost within each leaf. I have to remember I've got to cover all these leaves and get a sense of the plant as a whole. So I have to come up with a shorthand for suggesting these textures and shapes. I'm using a fairly small brush at this point and confining my attention to this one part of one leaf. But from time to time, I back off and look at the plant as a whole. This aspect of painting, where you shift attention from the big to the small, is something you learn by practice. I think for the beginning painter, the tendency is to focus in on one small detail, like the eyes or the lips if you're doing a portrait, or just one small part of the plant. And the challenge is to back off and see the big picture too, and the relationship of the parts. You can't paint a picture solely by looking at the big shapes, or solely by looking at the small forms. You need to shift attention back and forth between the little things and the big things, and make them all fit together. I'm starting to think about the background tone, which probably should be a little darker if I'm going to make this hosta plant read against the background. While I'm still thinking about the small forms of those upper leaves, I'm thinking about the overall relationship of the top of the plant to the bottom of the plant and the plant to its background. There's a lot of different parts of the picture I'm thinking about. The little shapes, which I represent with little brush strokes, the lines, the values, the light and dark shapes, and the colors. And as I shift my attention from the large to the small, from all these different factors to each other, I kind of notice a payoff, which must be the release of dopamine, which is a natural neurotransmitter, which helps with the reward centers of the brain and sustained attention. And to keep going, to keep focused for 2 hours or more in a case like this, I need to find small victories to keep me going to the next steps. I find the hardest thing to accomplish is just to achieve patience, just to slow down and really look, because everything around us is trying to make us speed up and be hasty. I'm going to introduce a dark tone in the background to define the outer silhouette of the hosta plant. And I want to use a dark violet, and use some violets and some reds to kind of set off those greens. See how this works. This I can do in one big bold stroke, because it's just a background color and it's designed to bring out the leaves in the foreground. Now, if you followed my channel, you know I often say to start with big brushes and end with small brushes, but this is a case where you start relatively small and you end up with big brushes. A plant may seem like a fairly simple thing to paint, just a green shape against the background. But within the plant are the individual leaves, each a separate universe unto itself. Even the vein within each leaf is its own universe. And I'm sure the same thing would continue down to the cellular level. The painting teacher Richard Schmid said, "The grandest and simplest things contain worlds within worlds. Seeing them is a matter of the right point of view, and your painter's eye is the special portal to such sights." I'm making some drastic last-minute changes here. Okay, thanks for watching. You might want to check out my website or subscribe to my channel. And then here's a playlist with more good stuff and a video that continues the story. So check them out and share with your friends.